The following are remarks by Prime Minister the Most Honourable Dr. Hubert Minnis during a press briefing on his return from the 31st Intersessional CARICOM meeting held in Barbados, February 18th and 19th, 2020.
Upon arriving in Barbados, I would have met and had a meeting with the Bahamian students there. We have quite a number of students there who are studying at the university in Barbados, some studying medicine, some studying law, some studying meteorology, some human resources, biology, etc. And I explained to them that it was essential for them to return to their country so that they can make their contribution to the growth and development of the Bahamas. I also explained to them that the Bahamas population, 60% of our population are 45 or less, and therefore it's essential that we prepare for them because the future generation will have to carry on the country, and it's essential that we make provisions for them and accommodate them and review our salary structures scale so that they can be accommodated. So that occurred, and we had very good conversation afterward. They asked quite a lot of very important, pertinent, relevant questions that we were able to respond to. Minister Darren Henfield would have responded to relevant questions that he may have been asked. Travis Robinson may have responded, and so would our ambassador to CARICOM, Ruben Rumming. So we were all very much engaged. Then at the first CARICOM session, I would have met a group of students from Barbados High School. And what was very, very significant and relevant, the world knew that the Bahamas was struck with one of the most ferocious hurricanes ever in the history of the Atlantic. And two of our major islands were destroyed, and the Abaco Keys, and would have had some dampening effect on our economy. The students, high school students in Barbados, recognized that many of our students, both in Abaco and Grand Bahama and the Keys, would have been dislodged. They would have also recognized that individuals' education could have been temporarily put on hold. During the hurricane, individuals would have lost their school materials, they would have lost their books, pencils, computers, etc. They would have lost their school uniforms, shoes, different clothing, etc. And the students took it upon themselves and put their lunch monies together and any other resources that they may have had. They would have done various different functions to raise money, gotten money from parents and others. Wherever they could have raised money, they did. And those students raised money for the Bahamian students in particular, and they would have sent thousands of dollars here to the Bahamas to help our students because they recognize how important education was. And then, so I thank them on behalf of the people and government of Bahamas, and especially on behalf of our students whose education, through the excellent work of our Minister of Education, the education was minimally compromised and continued. And they were very, very grateful for the Bahamas showing its appreciation for what they've done. Most importantly, immediately after the students had completed, the sessions had begun. And during the opening session, we would have had a group of professors and labor representatives who would have spoken. And they spoke about their research and how do you advance a country, how do you grow an economy, and how do you attack poverty. We would have heard many complaints that we have done very little, though we've spoken about we are for the poor, and we've heard many complaints that we have done very little for the poor. But what was amazing, the research group and labor group, what they came forth with, their research showed that in order to grow your economy, to grow your country, and attack poverty, the number one thing you should do is educate your population. Education is the number one factor to eradicate or make a dent on poverty. This is the research data showing. And that is why when we came in, we made education a priority. And that was why we chose a former educator, Jeff Lloyd, to lead the education program. We subsequently made education free at the tertiary level. University of Bahamas is free to Bahamians. And since that had commenced, up to 50, and an increase in 57% of individuals took advantage of that freeness. And it's estimated that that's going to grow by 10% every year. So that is thousands of students who could not afford a tertiary education can now be educated at University of Bahamas. We made that possible. We also recognize that we made BTVI also free so that individuals can receive vocational education free, again in planning for the future and concentrating on our young population so that they'd have a better quality of life and a better future. In addition to that, we also recognize, as the research from both the labor representative at our CARICOM meeting pointed out, that you must find a way to improve your preschool education, because that is the foundation of moving forward. And we made that free also, and we recognize that we don't have sufficient schools to accommodate our preschoolers at three-year, third grade, fourth graders. So what we've done, we've introduced a program where individuals can send their school to recognized preschool, and we would pay $700 as contribution to their preschool education. That's $700 per month to ensure that they're educated. But in spite of that, we went even a step further because we recognize we still don't have sufficient. So we wanted to ensure that our Family Island students also would have access to preschool education. So we've introduced a program where land would be made available free to Bahamians who want to embark in preschool education, establish their own school. They would be able to build their facility duty-free, and they would be able to, regardless to how many students they have in such facility, they would get a contribution from government of $700 per month to educate our preschoolers. So they were happy to hear that because we're on the right track. We also pointed out that the Bahamas is like the Eastern Caribbean in that we're a number of separate islands. And like some Eastern Caribbean islands where some are better off than others, we face the same challenges here in the Bahamas. Some of our southern islands are not as well off as our northern islands, and we are not Nassau-centric. We treat the entire Bahamas as one family. We are not Nassau-centric. And what we've done is all students coming from the Family Islands, we have made it available for them to have proper accommodation because many of their families are concerned about where they have proper accommodation, where they're in safe environment, etc. So all students coming from the Family Islands who enter our universities free of charge are given $500 per month to assist with their accommodation. So that's what we've done. And already 178 students are taking advantage of such facilities. 178 of our Family Island students are taking advantage of this $500 grant that they utilize. And just recently, you would note that the University of Bahamas just recently had groundbreaking for their new over $80 million dormitory facility. And therefore, students coming from the Family Island can live in such facilities, they would automatically have a $500 contribution to assist with their accommodation. And depending on the cost of living, because the young people are our future, we would make the necessary adjustment to ensure that they receive their education. So all of this came out, and the CARICOM nations were very pleased with the direction the Bahamas is going. And we pointed out to them that the statistics show that the growth from the Family Islands in terms of those utilizing the $500 grant is expected to grow 10% per year, but we'd be prepared for that. So those were things that were pointed out. What was also pointed out at that meeting, in order to grow your economy, you must have adequate transportation. And CARICOM discussed about having inter-island sea-link fast ferries between the islands, between the Caribbean nations. That would improve trade. That would also improve growth and movement of people who can spend in different territories, etc. And we're on the right track. We have mailboat system, we have Bahamas Air, they have LIAT. And yes, we must subsidize Bahamas Air, but without the transportation, the Family Islands would demise. So we must continue that subsidy. But we must go further. And my minister has already been in discussion with improving the inter-island link using faster ferries. Because what was pointed out is that if you use slow ferries, then individuals, once it takes hours to reach their destination, then individuals would not be inclined to utilize such facilities. So we're on the right track, and we would continue to discussions with inter-island, Family Island transportation. So those were matters that came out. Then there was the matter about the problems we face with respect to Haiti. That was a matter discussed, and we brought forth to our CARICOM colleagues the challenges that we face with illegals, the challenges both ourselves and Turks and Caicos face. And in fact, the Turks Prime Minister had pointed out that things are getting so bad and restless in Turks Island that the residents are now taking it upon themselves to capture illegal residents, apprehend them themselves, and retain them for the police and other officers. But we are in discussion. The Bahamas is in discussion with the Turks and Caicos, and we expect to sign a memorandum of understanding very soon so that we can protect each other's borders, because we face the same challenges. But moving forward, it is essential, and I repeat, it is essential that we take charge and grab hold of the challenges we face with respect to illegal. This is no longer talk. Those Bahamians who engage and hire illegals, the police, the immigration, and the ministry, the relevant ministries, have been given the mandate that they are to prosecute such individuals, because Bahamas is for Bahamians first and foremost and will remain. And it's our duty and our responsibility to ensure that Bahamians are first. But we will not tolerate illegals. So we pointed out that we have a serious problem, and like Turks, we will aggressively address that matter. So we're putting all Bahamians on alert. Yes, we were hampered by Dorian. And we spoke a lot about rebuilding, and we spoke a lot about rebuilding with resiliency. Dominica has gone through that, and they would have, throughout the process, we would have been in communication with all of the relevant CARICOM nations that would have experienced that, so that we would not have reinvented the wheel. And we visited a housing development in Barbados that was built with resiliency. This housing development comprised of about 100 acres. But what was amazing, they construct about 30 homes per month, and they build with complete resiliency. And I asked the question whether their homes would be able to withstand earthquakes, because just recently in Nassau, in New Providence, we had experienced earth tremor. That's something we've never felt before, and therefore what global changes are coming. Climate change is a reality, and we can expect other changes. And with resiliency, their homes are built on pilings, so they are built to withstand earthquakes. They're also built to withstand Category 5 hurricanes, impact windows, walls, roofs, concrete roofs, some recycled plastic. They have developed a methodology where plastics are recycled and made into tiles with resiliency to combat hurricanes. The development itself, and it's a great opportunity for Bahamians, because it's self-contained development, and they're low-income homes, low-income to lower middle income. And if you see the homes, you would be more than satisfied. They're homes in any the average middle or upper class areas here within New Providence or throughout the Bahamas. These are homes of 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, some 2 bedrooms, with all the different amenities, built to resist flooding. Streets solarized. All homes have solar facility, heating facility, electricity, assisted by solarization, energy efficient. And it has, in addition to that, town center within this 100 acre property. So you would have had amenities for recreation, basketball court, play field, preschool, because it's a society, school, supermarkets, restaurants, laundry facility, and when you talk about regulation and organization, cleanliness you could never even imagine. I mean, well regulated. And I mean, it's the most organized, most developed housing complex. And we toured such facilities, my team and I, and we were very impressed. And we've invited the individuals down for further discussion. And we would have discussion with the authority, and the authority would go and visit such facility. But can you imagine? This would open the doorway for young people, young entrepreneurs, because now you can have a shift of wealth. Because now you can have young entrepreneurs for the first time being a part of a complete township where they can own laundromat, they can own supermarkets, they can own preschool, they can own whatever is in there. And the cost, I asked the question, I said, we have low-income facilities here in New Providence. But our low-income facility costs $160,000. What low income is that? $160,000. When we came into office, we realized that that was not affordable. So we immediately dropped the price to $110,000 to $120,000 so that Bahamians could accommodate and purchase homes. So I was concerned that you could not construct a low-income facility that's cost prohibitive. How would our young people survive? Because they all want a home. And I asked the question, if government were to provide the land, if government through the pledges and the donations via international organizations and other countries as a result of Dorian were to put in the infrastructure, we provide duty-free, duty concessions. All of this is now a part of our program moving forward. Would we be able to deliver and construct homes of that nature for less than $80,000? And the answer was yes. That's what we want. That's what we want. That's what we want for our young people. Can you imagine having an energy-efficient home that has all the amenities, a township, young people having opportunities to own the businesses within that particular sector? You're trying to create wealth, and you can deliver for less than $80,000, and you can construct 30,000 homes per month. 30 homes per month. So our concern, and I pointed out, that we are very inclusive nature, inclusive society, Bahamian first. And therefore we would want the knowledge to be transmitted to Bahamians. And they say, yes, that can be done. That can be done. We would own such facilities, but we would ensure that Bahamians are involved in the construction, Bahamians are involved in the development, etc. And Bahamians would acquire such knowledge so that we can help ourselves if we're hit by hurricanes in other areas. But of course, we can, as we continue to build with resiliency, we can continue such model moving forward. But it don't happen overnight, but we're on the right track. And yes, if your home is destroyed, your business is destroyed, you would want that completed and done tomorrow. You want to complete it in 1-2 months. That's human nature. You expect that. But the most important thing is reporting to you so that you can see the progress. And I pointed out that we have one challenge, because we want to issue land to our Bahamians. We have the land available, but we have the greatest challenge with surveyors. We don't have sufficient. And that's holding back this government giving land grants to many of the young people and Bahamians who have applied. We just don't have sufficient. So we were recruiting surveyors. So I say now, because the other day while visiting Eleuthera, a surveyor in Eleuthera came forth and he said, listen, he in the private sector and he wanted to do contracted work with government, and somebody in government office obstructing him and saying, no, they don't need it. So I said, listen, you call my office, you have a job, because we want to give the land to the Bahamian populace, but we can't give it because we don't have sufficient surveyors, and individuals who are hogging up this knowledge don't want Bahamians to get the land, but they will get it, and we're recruiting surveyors. And so all private surveyors who are out there in the private sectors kindly call the office of the Prime Minister so that we can hire you, so that these Bahamians can get their land. They're waiting for it, we promised it, and we can't deliver because we cannot survey the land. So we were recruiting, and they have surveyors. So those were basically the gist of the bulk of what was discussed. We had very active, very good, constructive meetings. And the other meetings would have been about Venezuela, which our position is firm. The border problem with Belize, that's now being referred to International Court of Justice, so that's being dealt with. And then there's the border problem with Guyana. But those were issues that we discussed, and I think we're going to aggressively move towards building our homes with resilience, and I think Bahamians would be proud if we can deliver homes for them. And moving along that road, we've made a commitment that the lands would be granted free. The infrastructure would be done by the international pledges. There would be no duties, and of course that's a government policy. With all government subdivisions that we create moving forward, they would be duty-free so as to assist young Bahamians and Bahamians moving forward.
The preceding were remarks by Prime Minister the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis during a press briefing on his return from the 31st Intersessional CARICOM meeting held in Barbados, February 18th and 19th, 2020.